Have you ever heard it? You look way younger than your age. Maybe it came as a compliment. Maybe you brushed it off, blamed it on good genes or moisturizer. But what if something else is going on? What if the way you look is actually revealing the way you live? Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the last century, believed that when a person aligns with who they truly are, beneath expectation, performance, and fear, they don't just find peace, they become lighter. Not metaphorically, energetically, physically. And when that happens, the body follows. So today we're exploring 9 deeper reasons why you might look younger than your age, and why it has less to do with skincare and everything to do with soul care. Make sure you stay until the final reason, because that's where everything reverses. Reason 1. Most people don't age from time, they age from tension. Not the tension of work or stress, but the subtler kind. The pressure to be what they're not. The smile they force when something cuts. The silence they keep when truth burns inside. The performance they maintain year after year just to belong. And that's the real weight, not life itself, but living from the outside in. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we present to the world. It helps us survive, fit in. But the longer we wear it, the more we forget what's beneath it. And here's the catch. The body doesn't lie. You can fake a personality, but you can't fake presence. When someone has stopped pretending, it shows. Their face relaxes, their voice softens, their posture loses its armor. They don't grip the moment, they inhabit it, because they're not calculating their expression. They're not curating every word. They're just there. And that absence of performance, it's healing, not just emotionally, physiologically. Because when the nervous system isn't rehearsing or defending, it recalibrates. It rests. It regenerates. So if you look younger than your age, it may not be luck. It may be because you're no longer wasting energy on being someone else. You've stopped editing your existence for approval. And the glow people see, that's what your face looks like when it finally belongs to you. Reason 2. Most people age in a silent battle with themselves. They're trying to be consistent, trying to be clear, confident, resolved. But the truth is, we're not designed for that kind of symmetry. We contradict ourselves. We want connection, but fear being seen. We crave freedom, yet cling to control. We long to feel safe, but resent feeling small. The problem isn't the contradiction. The problem is the refusal to allow it. Carl Jung believed that the path to wholeness didn't come from eliminating paradox, but from integrating it. He called it the union of opposites, light and dark, masculine and feminine, order and chaos. And when these opposing forces are rejected, they don't disappear. They fracture the psyche, they split the identity. And that psychic tension, it doesn't just drain the mind, it shows up in the body. You see it in the clenched jaw of the perfectionist, the tight smile of the person who always says they're fine, the posture of someone holding a life together that no longer fits. But you've stopped fighting yourself. You've stopped needing to be all light. Stopped pretending you're not still healing, still feeling, still sometimes lost. And in that surrender, your system exhaled. You don't carry the frozen tension of someone at war with their own nature. You walk with something softer, something settled. Because once you stop needing to appear resolved, you actually start becoming whole. And that wholeness, it has a look, it has a feel. It's not perfection, it's integration. And integration ages differently. Reason 3. Most people don't look older because of what they feel. They look older because of what they refuse to feel. Grief held in the chest, resentment buried in the gut, unspoken truths tightening the throat for years. They call it aging, but often it's just accumulation. Carl Jung warned that what we repress doesn't go away. it becomes fate. And for many, that fate lives in the skin, the eyes, the body's slow collapse under the weight of unprocessed emotion. But for some, there's lightness. Not because life spared them pain, but because they let it move. You've felt what most avoid. You've cried without shame, raged without destruction, spoken without dressing it up in politeness or performance. And because you let emotion flow, it doesn't calcify. Your system doesn't lock up. Your face doesn't tighten to hold it all in. Empaths and emotionally honest people often radiate a kind of softness, not because they're fragile, but because they're clear. Clarity is what youth actually looks like. Not ignorance, not naivety, but an internal environment with no backlog. You didn't suppress the heartbreak. You metabolized it, and what remained wasn't damage, it was depth. So when people say you look peaceful, bright, untouched by time, they're not seeing innocence. They're seeing someone who has mastered the art of emotional release. Someone who stopped turning feelings into tension. And that practice? It's not cosmetic, it's chemical, it's cellular. That's why it shows. Reason 4. Most people don't realize how much it ages them. To live a life that looks right but feels wrong. They meet the deadlines, hit the goals, check every box. But something beneath it stays empty. And over time, that emptiness starts to cost. Not just mentally, but physically. You see it in the slump of someone who's tired of their own script. You hear it in the voice that sounds practiced, not present. You feel it in the smile that flickers too fast. It's the weight of a life performed instead of lived. But people who age differently, they're not necessarily stress-free. They're just not performing. They've chosen to orient their life around meaning, not metrics. Maybe it's a quiet kind of work. Maybe it's a relationship that feeds them. Maybe it's simply giving their attention to what feels real, not what looks good. But whatever it is, it sustains them. Because when you live from meaning, your energy doesn't leak. You're not chasing approval. You're not contorting to be palatable. You're not resenting every task because none of them feel like yours. And that kind of clarity, it shows. You move slower, but with more presence. You speak less, but with more weight. You glow, not because life has been light, but because you're no longer drained by what doesn't matter. You look younger because you're not aging in someone else's direction. Reason 5. Most people confuse youth with age, but it's not about how many years you've lived. It's about how many parts of yourself you've kept alive. You can see it in the way someone moves. Some people are technically young, but they've already shut down. Their laugh is polite. Their body is rigid. Their voice is flat. And then there's you. You still laugh from the stomach. You still dance when no one's watching. You still sing even when it's off-key. You still play, not because it's useful, but because it's you. That's what most people miss. Play isn't a phase. It's a survival trait. It's how the nervous system releases tension without needing a reason. Laughter shakes stress loose. Dancing clears out shame. Singing returns breath to the body. Playing restores emotional movement in a world that demands you stay still. People lose their glow when they shut those doors. They become efficient but empty, reliable but unreadable. But you've kept access to spontaneity. You haven't let the world silence the parts of you that feel for no reason, the parts that move without a goal, the parts that don't need permission. And that kind of freedom, it keeps the body light, it keeps the spirit untangled, it keeps the face soft because nothing is being held in. You don't look younger because you're trying to stay young. You look younger because you're still alive inside. And in a world that teaches adults to shut that part down, that's not immaturity. That's power. Reason 6, you've stopped resisting life. Most people age in their resistance, not to time, but to change, to loss, to endings they didn't choose, to plans that fell apart while they were still hoping. And that resistance, It doesn't just show in behavior. It settles in the body, the tension in the jaw, the grip in the stomach, the shoulders that forgot what rest feels like. It's not aging, it's holding on. But some people live differently, not because life has been gentle with them, but because they stopped fighting every current. You've felt it, haven't you? That shift from clinging to adjusting, from trying to control what happens, to deciding how to meet it. You've learned to let life move. You've cried without needing a reason, let people go without begging them to stay, changed your direction without needing to explain it. And in that letting go, something released in you. You became fluid, not passive but flexible, not fragile but bendable. You don't carry the stiffness of someone trying to force a fixed identity into a moving world. You've stopped aging in resistance, and that flexibility, it saves you. Emotionally, physically, even cellularly. Because when you're not resisting life, life doesn't have to push so hard. Your body isn't in a constant state of defense. Your expression isn't braced for what might go wrong. Instead, there's softness, there's breath, there's space for joy to find you, even in the middle of uncertainty. You look younger, not because everything has gone your way, but because you've learned how to flow when it doesn't. Reason 7. There's a reason people who live with resentment look older than they are. It isn't just emotional, it's physical. Bitterness weighs down the body. Anger clogs the breath. Cynicism tightens the face until every expression becomes a defense. You can see it. People who've held on to every betrayal, who replay every wound, who wear every slight like armor. But kindness? That's a different strategy. You might have had every reason to shut down, to become guarded, to lead with suspicion instead of warmth. But you didn't. You chose to stay soft, even when it cost you. You forgave when it would have been easier to withdraw. You loved anyway, knowing the risk, not avoiding it. And that choice, it protected more than your soul. It protected your vitality, because kindness isn't passive, it's selective. It says, I refuse to carry what will rot in me if I hold it too long. That's why kind people often seem to glow. Their body isn't burdened by what it wasn't meant to keep. Their face isn't hardened by cycles of emotional retribution. Their spirit feels light, not because life has been, but because they are. You don't look younger because you've had fewer wounds. You look younger because you never let those wounds define your character. Kindness ages differently because it clears the system. It resets the nervous response. It creates space where resentment would have lived. And when that space stays open, peace has room to settle in. Reason 8. You live close to nature. Most people spend their lives disconnected from anything real. Fluorescent lights, digital noise, climate-controlled air, endless screens, constant speed, and a world that never pauses. But the body remembers what it was made for. It remembers sunlight, stillness, air that hasn't been conditioned, silence that doesn't need to be filled. And when you live too long without those things, it shows. The nervous system becomes hypervigilant, the skin dulls, the mind never fully rests, even when the body stops moving. But you return to rhythm. Maybe it's not daily, maybe it's not even intentional, but you find your way back to trees, to open skies, to walking without a destination, to the sound of water instead of words. And when you do, your body recalibrates. Not in some poetic, metaphorical way, in a cellular way. Stress lowers, heart rate softens, hormones rebalance. The system stops bracing. You aren't just in nature, you're remembering what it feels like to be human. And people can feel that in you. You don't move like someone caught in artificial urgency. You don't speak like someone who's forgotten stillness. Your energy isn't extracted, it's rooted. You look younger not because you've escaped time, but because you've realigned with the only rhythm that doesn't rush. And when you let nature regulate you, your body doesn't have to fight the pace of the world. It just returns to the place it was never supposed to leave. Reason 9, you're not trying to look young. Here's the part people don't understand. You don't look younger because you're trying to. You look younger because you're not performing it. You're not clinging to it. You're not branding yourself as ageless. You're not trying to prove that time hasn't touched you because you've got nothing to prove. And that absence of effort, that's exactly why it shows. Because most people don't age from time. They age from tension. The tension of trying to hold on, of managing appearances, of constructing a version of themselves that says, look, I'm still desirable, I'm still relevant, I still matter. It's not the years that drain them. It's the internal campaign to resist being seen as aging. It shows up in their face, the strain in the smile, the hesitation in the laugh, the posture that's both defensive and exhausted. You know that look because the world is full of it. People obsessing over how to stay young and somehow looking older in the process. Not because of how they age, but because of how they fight it. But you didn't waste your energy fighting what's natural. You didn't shape your identity around youth. You shaped your life around presence. You didn't stop laughing loudly just because people got quieter. You didn't stop wearing color just because the world started dressing in safe tones. You didn't stop moving, playing, flirting with life just because the calendar flipped. And that refusal to shrink, that's what people are seeing when they tell you, you don't look your age. They think it's skin or diet or routine. But it's something else. It's the fact that your energy isn't locked in self-monitoring. It's not curled inward in insecurity. It's not leaking out in constant comparison. You're not trying to be young. You just never collapsed into the version of old that the world quietly enforces. Quiet, safe, predictable, tense. You didn't agree to it. You didn't shrink into it. You didn't audition for anyone else's image of aging gracefully. You just kept living, freely, unapologetically, without waiting for permission. And that's the part that glows, not the skin, not the hair, not the clothes, the freedom. That's what youth actually is, not a number, not a face, not a product. Just the unedited expression of someone who never outsourced their aliveness. So no, you're not trying to look young. You just never stopped being alive in public. And most people did. So maybe now it makes sense. It's not your skin. It's not your routine. It's not some product that's working better than theirs. It's the way you live. You don't perform your life. You feel it. You laugh when it's real. You move when it calls you. You let go when it's time. You haven't been fighting age. You've just refused to collapse into the shape the world expects from someone your age. That's why you still glow. Why your energy feels clean. Why people pause around you but don't know why. Every reason we've just covered, from how you play, to how you let go, to how you stay open in a world that rewards closure. They all point to the same thing. You didn't shut yourself down, and most people did. So here's the real question. If you've stayed this light without even realizing it, what happens when you start doing it on purpose?